Welcome to Big Dan's Airgun Review channel. Today we're going to look at an air rifle that has been requested for quite a while on this channel, and that is the SMK PR900 Victory Rifle. This one's for you, Brian. We know you've been asking for this one for a long time, but one thing I do have to say is I do apologise that I know you was requesting the 177 model, but we could only get our mitts on a 2.2 at the time. These rifles are really popular at the moment, and the 177s are completely sold out with our supplier. Thankfully though, we've managed to get our hands on a 2.2 model. Both rifles obviously are the exact same, the only difference is the different calibre and such. So the features with this are the same as what you'll get with the 177 version. Now I've been wanting to do this one for a while myself. As you know, I've got a soft spot when it comes to underdog rifles and such like that. And when it comes to a PCP from SMK that retails at £200 at SRP, I mean that's pretty much as underdog as it gets, sort of thing. So I thought anybody who's interested perhaps in joining the PCP world of airgunning, not everyone has a massive budget, not even everybody can afford something like an Artemis M16 or even start with a Zabroya Hortizia or something like that. They will like to start at the lowest end. Or even people who do have a lot of money in their pockets, they're a little bit hesitant about starting with the PCP and going the full whack. And this would be a great little gun to try and see if it can get you into maybe then sampling the more expensive guns. It's a gateway drug to PCPs, I'll put it that way. So without any further ado, we know what we're dealing with now. Another thing I'll mention is just how comically huge that 3-12x50 Conus Pro scope looks on there. It's not actually a particularly massive scope, but the rifle is just not a very big one, and it just amplifies just how big that scope looks on top of it, with the rifle is a little bit more compact, shall we say. Anyways, enough of this, we're rambling now. Let's move on to the features of the PR900, and hopefully, Brian, this will help you out. So, let's move on. So then, features. What do you get with the PR900? Starting off at the rear, you've got a rather nicely finished rubber butt pad here. No stamping or names or anything in the butt pad, but it is quite a nice one to feel. It doesn't feel too cheap, but then at the end of the day, it's a rubber butt pad. It's nothing really to shout about, sort of thing, but again, it's nice that you've got it. Moving slightly further forwards, you've got a nicely finished cheek piece here. It's not the most pronounced cheek piece in the world, but it definitely does its job. The rifles are advertised as right-handed. However, if I just show you if you can see that, the other side there, you can see there's no actual figure work to the cheek piece on the right hand side, but it's perfectly smooth, and I've had a few lefties pick these rifles up and they've yet to have an issue, or I've yet to hear a complaint that a left-handed shooter cannot use the PR900W. So although it's advertised as right-handed, I'd say if you're a lefty and you're thinking about trying a cheap PCP, definitely give one a shoulder, don't write it off. I've had plenty of customers that are lefties that do shoot these, and as mentioned, no complaints so far. Moving slightly further along, we've got the checkering on the grip here, something that you may not have expected on such a cheap PCP rifle, but it is definitely present. And underneath, if I can just about show you that, you can also see the SMK logo has been stamped in the bottom of the grip there, which is another nice little addition. Moving to the action now. This has got the single shot tray built in, and as you can see, it is a bolt action. You can see the rear of the bolt poking through here, and just under the pellet probe you can see the single shot tray. However, the PR900 is actually also a fully built multi-shot rifle. You do have the multi-shot mag that comes with it there, so if you want to go single shot tray for target shooting, by all means you've got the power to do so. If you want to do a little bit of hunting, you have got the multi-shot mag as well. Coming down a bit, we have the two-stage trigger, which is, I'm pleased to say, completely metal, and you've also got the trigger guard, which is, once again, give it a little tap, you can hear that, but that is also metal. You've got the safety switch here, which is currently engaged in the safe position. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about these when we get into the handling section of the review. Slightly further along, we have a little bit more checkering, which again, handling section of the review, we'll go a bit more detail into that. One thing that is worth mentioning though, is that the PR900 is not regulated. It is a budget gun, so you can sort of let that slide if we're being honest, but we'll still check the consistency and such and shot count through the chronograph a bit later on. But if you're looking for a regulated gun for £200, PR900 can't do that. It can do many things, but she's not regulated, unfortunately. Moving slightly further, oh no, wait, let's go back 2 seconds. One thing we're going to mention is that with this gun in its standard configuration, you do get an adjustable rear sight at the back here for both windage and elevation. As you can tell, we have had to take the adjustable rear sight off to mount this scope. As mentioned, this isn't the biggest scope on earth. This is a Konus Pro 3 to 12 by 50. I mean, the objective is fairly big, but length and such, it's definitely not the biggest I've ever had. But look how big it looks on this rifle. Again, we'll talk a bit more about that a bit later on. Maybe in hindsight, something like a, I don't know, 3 to 9 by 40 or 3 to 9 by 32 might have been a slightly better idea, perhaps. But it's a new scope we've just had in. Want to try the Konus scopes, and I thought, why not chuck it on the PR900 and we can do 2 for 1, so to speak. And moving slightly further along, you can see you've got the front sight here and also a Baffled Shroud. The Shroud does have a silencing effect, but as I'm sure also many other previous PR900 owners will know or tell you, they don't. Well, they're not the strongest silencing effect, we'll put it that way. One of the first tunes a lot of people do on these is they slap their own silencer on the end. But again, we'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later on, and we'll let you have a listen so you can hear what it sounds like for yourself. Another little thing worth mentioning is that this rifle does not come with a dust cap for the filling port, so you want to be a bit careful when you're filling this thing up. But other than that, for the price, you're really getting quite a hell of a lot for your money, I've got to be honest. For a fully fledged PCP, and a multi-shot PCP at that, for around 200 quid max SRP, that is a hell of a lot of rifle for the money. We're going to talk about one little potential niggle these have though, or a peculiarity that the PR900s have when we get to the handling section, and that is the bolt. Well, every now and again the action can be finicky depending on the type or width of the pellet that you put in there. But again, we'll talk a bit about that later on. That's another thing I know the PR900 owners are probably sitting there and waiting for me to comment on. But that's it for features. Next up, let's talk about weight. Now, we have already weighed the PR900 and it came out without a scope at, let me just check this, we have saved it on the phone as we did this earlier off camera. It comes in at 5.12 pounds. So it is a particularly light rifle, and let's be fair, maybe the scope I put on there is a little bit too big, but we're going to weigh it again now with a scope attached, as let's be fair, that's the way most people are going to shoot it. So 5.12 pounds unscoped. Let's see what it can do with the scope on there. Let's see how she weighs. Okay then, so weighing it now with the Konus scope attached, she comes out at 5.74 pounds. So even with a fairly hefty, or hefty looking at least, on this scope on top, it's still not a heavy gun by any means. It's still sub 6 pounds, so it can be used by pretty much everyone out there. Of course, having a lightweight gun doesn't mean much if it doesn't shoulder very well, doesn't shoot very well, and the consistency is up and down all over the place. So let's get the rifle put back by the table now, and let's talk about handling, and let's knock these categories out one at a time. So then, let's see how the PR900 handles. So before we talk about handling and such, we really need to mention about how to load this mag, as it's not a simple drop the pellets through the top until you're done jobby. There's a little bit of finesse needed to load them. But you might notice it's a very similar method to loading this as some of the other rifles we've reviewed on this channel. Now what you need to do is when you've got your mag, simply twist the top clear plate all the way around like so, and then the first pellet you load through the rear like that. Now I do apologise if I fumbled that ever so slightly. I'm doing this and looking through the camera at the same time, so we're all fingers and thumbs at the minute. Once you've done that and you've loaded the first pellet skirt first through the rear, you can load the rest straight through the top, like so, until you're completely done. Then it's simply a case of putting the mag straight into the rifle, closing the bolt, and you're ready to rock and roll. So that's loading the mag. That's a tiny bit of handling done. Now let's look at the actual rifle and see what exactly the rifle's made of. So let's put the thing to the shoulder and let's see what the thing's like. Moving on. So then we've got the PR900 here. Let's put it to the shoulder and see what we think. But first, before you can shoot the thing, you've obviously either got to put in the single shot tray or the mag. Now for this we're going to put the mag in first. You've just seen us load it, and to insert the mag it's really simple. Simply cock the bolt back like so. Insert your magazine in. You can see there's a small magnet on the bottom of the mag, and this lines up with the magnet that's inside the action here, and this is really quite satisfying. Simply put the mag in the slot like so, and you should see it clicks itself in using the magnets like that. Then it's simply a case of pushing the bolt forwards and you're ready to go. Now we're going to have a little chat, as we usually do, about how the thing shoulders. This is a strange experience, I'll put it that way, as someone who likes shooting bigger, heavier guns. And yeah, as per the weighing will show you, this thing really is, it is as light as a feather, even with this reasonable size scope on top. To be honest, I think at the moment the weight is actually a detriment for me for the rifle, because where it is so light, I'm personally not struggling to keep the thing still, but there's not much there. Where I've been trained, shall we say, over the years to shoot a heavier gun, there's not much there to sort of dampen what little movements I do have, and the thing is swaying around quite a bit. It's not terrible, but it's not the best. What might be making it worse is that the conoscopes, this is the conoscope with just the standard sight. This is the Conus Pro 3 to 12 by 50, as we mentioned earlier. This has got sort of like almost it's a duplex reticle that goes into a very fine cross in the centre, very fine crosshair. And that very fine cross might be, I don't know, making it look like it's shaking more than it is. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how this translates into accuracy in the accuracy section. But if you're after a lightweight rifle and you're on a budget, so far this is ticking the box big time. The other thing, as we always talk about safeties, the other thing I really like about this is the safety has got a really satisfying clonk to it. And you can see here, the button here, safety is poking out the other side, whether you can see that or not, I hope you can. And it's simply a case of pushing that button out like so, and you get a really nice metallic thunk to tell you that the safety's switched off. You can tell which one's fire and which one's safe, as the firing, when you're ready to fire, you can see the red rim, on the button there. So simply switch it like that and your safety's on, and switch it back again like that and your safety's off. So we've already cycled the gun, there's a pellet in the breech. Let's give it a shot and let's see what we think. Yeah, it's not bad. Where there's so little weight, there is a tiny little pushback, even though this is a PCP. As they say, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so even a PCP, you always get, there's a minute little bit of kick. Where this is a lot lighter, let me just cycle that again, you'll see there is a tiny little, you might have seen that then, it jumps just a tiny little bit. Again though, it's still far less than what you find on a Springer, gas ram, you name it. It's still pretty PCP-like in that regard, but there is a tiny little nudge there which is quite unique. Actually, as many of you know, I find PCPs quite boring, so I'm actually finding this quite fun. The other thing worth mentioning is that the trigger blade is also a fully metal unit, which is quite nice. Only slight niggles that I have is that the blade itself is quite wide, or at least it feels wider than it should be. Which makes the trigger feel a little bit dead, perhaps, maybe, when you're pulling the thing. It's not as responsive as a lot of other triggers out there. Out of the box, this is an adjustable unit, it is an adjustable two-stage unit. Out the box, it's a little bit heavy. Now, let me cycle it again. Hopefully you can see my trigger finger. Make sure we're placed into the backstop now. You can feel the second stage right there biting in. It is a proper little two-stage unit. And then off she goes. There's a tiny little bit of creep when you hit that second stage. You might have just seen that there. Let's just give it another go. And just give it a squeeze. There's the second stage, and let me see if I can just rest it on the creep. You might have been able to see that. A tiny little bit of movement, then off it goes. There's a bit of weight on the trigger. It's not, shall we say, a massively creepy trigger in general. There's a tiny little bit of weight on there. There's a teensy little bit of creep, but it's not a bad unit. Let's give it another go. Right, so let's have a go. There's a little piece of stick down there. Let me just see if I can hit it. Yep. I hope you could hear that. But yeah, to be honest with you, it's a pretty nice handling little gun. Again, a bit too light for my taste, maybe. The multi-shot mag is doing the trick. I've yet to have any major jamming issues or anything like that. The mag itself is a little bit cheap, maybe, but as you can see now, it definitely does the job. One thing I am going to mention, though, the PR900 that definitely does need mentioning, is that, let's take the mag out of there, these things can be a bit funny if you put in certain pellets with wider or thinner skirts. For instance, let's put the single shot tray back in. Simply a case of lining it up, sliding it in, and click, in she goes. And now what we have here, what we was firing then, was the SMK Victory Shock round pellets in 2.2. Now these loaded in pretty damn smoothly, I've got to be honest. Let's just put another one in here. There's a little bit of resistance there you might have seen before it clicked in, but that wasn't too bad, so let's just get rid of that. However, we also have some super domes. Now, These can be a little bit, pardon the pun, but hit or miss with these. There can be a bit of resistance, and I'll just see the pellet's pretty much in there now, and with this, yeah, hopefully you can see I had to force it just a little bit more to get it in. Let's just do that one more time. So let's put another super dome in. Give that another go. And let's see if it does it again. So we've got the pellet lined up there, hopefully you can see that, and if we push that home, you can see there's a little bit of resistance with the wider skirts. Now just for a fair test, we'll have a go. We have some Air Arms Diablo field pellets here, which I'm currently fighting with the tin lid because I'm only using one hand at the moment. There we go. Diablo fields here, and let's put one of these in. Now by experience, JSBs and such are absolutely smooth as silk, and there you go. That was no resistance, just click, straight in she went. JSBs and Air Arms pellets, bang, are usually smooth as silk going into these, but just be careful. HNs and such, they can be a little bit finicky. FTTs can be a bit funny. Superdomes, like you saw there, you can get a bit of resistance and you've got to slam the thing home. Again, if you get that, it might still shoot fairly well. We'll find that out later, but yeah, it can be a little bit funny when it comes to different pellets. When it comes to sound and such, we've already got a spider making cobwebs on the end there. When it comes to sound, let's put a pellet in so we do get a fair test. Let's put them SMKs back in there. They weren't too bad. When it comes to sound, if you just want to have a quick listen, wait for that car to go past. It's not a crack, but it's not silent either. If you're going to go hunting and such with this, or you're around barns where it echoes a bit like where we are now, you will want a silencer on the end of there. But overall, to be honest with you, I'm really impressed. It feels like a fairly well-made gun, if I'm being honest. It doesn't feel cheap. The stock's quite nice. The only thing, again, which is worth mentioning maybe slightly, is that the checkering, while it is there, it's a little bit thin. It's like with the Artemis guns, the checkering, it's there, it's present, and it does look nice, to give it credit, but it's not the deepest checkering on the planet, I'll put it that way. But it's there, it's present. Other thing which I'm really quite fond of is the fact that the PR900 has the pressure gauge in the right place. It's underneath the gun, so essentially you don't have to check your pressure whilst also looking at this, which nobody really wants to do, and you shouldn't have to do that. But thankfully the PR has got it right. Hopefully they might do this with the M16s and such as well. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And Zabroya, are you listening? Do that. But overall, yeah, I'm really impressed. It's lightweight, it feels like it's made pretty well. The mag operates pretty damn well. Again, slightly cheap feeling mag, but it does its job. Single shot tray does its job, lines in there nicely, and the only thing to watch out for really is just mind your pellets, because you might find some of them might be a bit stiff to load, but on a handling front, I am well impressed. Other good thing worth mentioning, as you know we get a little bit finicky over, is that everything is metal, as far as I can tell, which I didn't expect on a gun this price point. You can even get some of the much more expensive guns with that as a big, semi-nasty lump of plastic, but with this, that does feel metallic. So, well done SMK. But this is a bit meaningless if the gun only has 10 shots per fill and the pellets go some way over there. So let's get the thing chronographed. We do have our pump with us, which I'm sure you can imagine we're going to be using a hell of a lot with this gun. The shot count is not its strongest point, but, well, it's a £200 SRP PCP. There needs to be constraints, shall we say, somewhere. We're going to be pumping this back up to full, and then we're going to put the chronograph down on the table here, and we'll see exactly what the shot count is and see what the consistency is like through the chrono. So let's put this £200 rifle through its paces. Let's move on. Okay then, so PR900 chronograph time. You can see the chrono is all set up and ready. One thing I will mention is you'll notice that our location is slightly different today, and that is because although it's only about, well, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it is semi-dark, and we've already done a test run inside the barn, and the Coldwell, as much as I love it, was giving us quite a few error readings. They're quite light sensitive, so I thought we'd drag it outside. It's a reasonably calm, nice-ish day. There's a bit of gust every now and again, but so I do apologise if you do hear some wind noise, but the chronograph does at least work out here. So we've pumped the gun up back to 200 bar, so she's ready to go. Now the pellets that we're going to be using today, this was a difficult one because we've brought quite a few pellets with us for the accuracy testing, and I was umming and ahhing as to which tin of pellets we was actually going to try. I was thinking about using the Air Arms pellets. They loaded pretty well, they're pretty smooth, and maybe a lot of people when they buy that sort of gun, it's what they'll put through it. You know, we've got the JSB RS pellets, but they're a little bit light maybe for a PCP, that you won't really get a full idea as to what the gun is doing maybe with such a lightweight pellet, and especially in PCPs that tend to prefer a heavier pellet. So I thought, why not sort of meet in the middle and go with the SMK Victory Shocks. Now the reasoning behind this is because weight wise they're pretty good. They're 15.2 grain, so they're about sort of, well, they're between the JSB and the Air Arms pellet, so they're a nice middling sort of weight. Not everybody necessarily is going to be putting a Barracuda in here, this sort of particular rifle, so as I said, it's a nice balanced weight when it comes to pellet choice. And the other thing is because it's mainly what you're probably going to get, depending on who you go to, what you're probably going to get with the rifle if they're going to chuck you in a tin of pellets. So I thought the fairest test possible would be to try the tin that you're given, more than likely going to be given with the gun. So we've got the shock pellets here, we've got the camera is already in its little stand, and we're pretty much locked, cocked and ready to rock. So let's put the little PR900 through the chrono using the Victory shock pellets. Here we're going to be looking for consistency, power and shot count. So let's see what the little gun can do. Okay then, so chronograph results, what do we think? Well, it's a bit of a shame actually that we had that one shot there, our 6th shot, which came in really low at only 6 feet-pounds, because other than that the gun was doing really well. Now this is, as mentioned, an unregulated rifle, and you can see here the first couple of shots are a little bit low and then it starts to really get into its stride. So if we eliminate these, and let's say roughly when we get it into its sweet zone, which is about here, you can see it starts building up, say 10.47, and then it climbs all the way up to, there you go, you're in the 11s now. So we can confirm, bear in mind these pellets, they're 15.2 grain, so even the Air Arms and such and the regular weighted JSBs, they're a bit heavier, so you're looking at something, say 16 grain plus. The power's going to be even higher than this, and potentially again they are a higher grade pellet, probably more consistent. We may not have even had that little low shot down there. But even so, if we eliminate the first few shots, so as we take a reading, say when the gun's really in its stride, there's about a 20 FPS spread, roughly 20-23 FPS throughout the entire shot string. And you can see here you've got around, let's say the 52nd shot, hopefully you can see that there. Let's move it a bit out of the sun. The 52nd shot there, 10.59, then after that you see it starts dropping to 10.10, 9.59. So you got around 52. Well, no, let's eliminate the first few, as we said, because they do, it is an unregulated gun, so the first few shots can come in a little bit low, a little bit high, depending on the rifle. Let's eliminate, let's be fair, eliminate the first 3 and get rid of the last 2. So you've got around 47 full power shots before the power starts going down, which, to be fair with you, for such a small air cylinder on this rifle, that is bloody good, to be fair. 47, we'll put it this way, like I say to most people, is you're having a bloody good night if you can shoot 47 rabbits in one night, we'll put it that way. The other thing that works in its favour is the fact that, although again 47 shots per fill, it's definitely on the lower end of the spectrum, nobody can lie about that, it is, but at the same time, where the air cylinder is so low, I've actually brought my pump with me today. As I've said, I've had to pump it up a few times for bits and bobs, and we did try chronoing indoors and it didn't really work too well. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to pump from around, say, 120 bar up to 200 bar. It takes no time at all to pump the thing with the cylinder is so thin, and I'm imagining if you have an air bottle it's going to be just as frugal, if not more so. So again, low shot count, but it's not too hard to handle when it comes to filling the thing up. But overall consistency wise, like we said, we'll say 23-25 FPS spread max if we ignore the first real dodgy shot we had here at 6 feet-pounds. We carried on again because well, it happened. I'm not going to reshoot just because that's happened once. If you can see that's happened there, you might know what to expect depending on the pellets you put through yours. So I try to be as honest as I can. But as you can see, when the clouds went in, we had a couple of error messages come up here. There's 3 more here after that one. Indoors, it was worse. But no, I think we can say consistency and power wise, it's the little gun's true to its advertising. It is a full power rifle, and consistency wise is pretty good, to be fair with you. It's about, well, although there's considerably less shots, the spread works out roughly the same as the Zabroya Hortizia that we checked. Admittedly, that went on for 145 shots, but it was still around a 20 FPS spread. So to be fair, if it's acceptable for the Hortizia, it's not too bad for the little unregulated PR900. But enough of that. Who cares about consistency? You can have the most consistent gun in the world through the chronograph and it'll be like a shotgun at the end of the range at 10 yards. So let's move on to accuracy. Now if we pan the camera up now, hopefully you may be able to see we have our target set up just over there, and we'll be having, let's say, 6 shots. We'll be using the mag as well, so we'll make it as against the PR900 as we can, but load the dice against it and see how it can do. Most people say the single shot tray is best, so let's use the mag, and then if we get time, we'll put the best pellet through the target only using the single shot tray, and we'll see how it does and if there's any marked improvement. So we've got the target set up. We'll move along now and I'll show you the pellets that we're using. As we usually do, we have a few wild cards in with our pellets that we test, and we'll see exactly what they can do. So let's get the pellet selection out and let's see what the gun's going to think of them. So then, accuracy test time. Now we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today, and I do apologise for the sheer amount of time it's taken to get this review done. There's been actually weeks and weeks, potentially a month's gap from when we first started filming to where we are now, and the simple reason for that is, one, the weather, which you can see the ground is pretty wet compared to what it was like before, and although it's being calm at the moment, there is still some pretty rough wind today. You can see it picking up a little bit there. And 2 is simply being time. Unfortunately, I've been quite busy and other things have been getting in my way. But we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. What we're going to do first is we're going to run a whole mag through the rifle into the target, which is set up at our traditional 25-yard range. Hopefully you can see it just over there. And what we're going to do is, I've already tested this rifle to see which pellets it likes the best, and it seems to like the JSB Exact Jumbo RS pellets. So we're going to put these through it straight away. Unfortunately, we will skip the pellet testing session because I've already done that, and like an idiot I didn't film it, did I? But these are the pellets it definitely grouped the best with. So we're going to try these at 25 yards, but we're also going to try something a little bit differently after this. There's going to be a bit more shooting going on in this review to make up for the amount of time that it's taken. So we've got our target set at 25 yards. First off, we're going to put a full mag through the rifle, and then after that we're going to use the single shot tray, as a lot of target shooters prefer to use these, as they seem to say that they're a bit more consistent. Well, we'll find that out today. So let's crack on with accuracy testing and let's see what the little PR900 can do. Okay then, so that was 7 shots through the multi-shot magazine, and now we're going to do the exact same with the single shot tray, and then when we're done we're going to compare results and see which one shot the best and see just what you can expect from the PR900. So then, let's move on to the single shot tray. So, 25-yard accuracy test time. What did we think? Well, we started off with the multi-shot mag, as let's be fair, it's probably what most people are going to be using with these, and when hunting this is probably what you're going to be using. Now it is quite gusty out here today, to be honest, probably a little too gusty for me to get a proper accuracy result, but even so, with the 7-shot mag, we've got, I'd say, pretty much a perfect 20 pence group under there. You see there's a tiny little bit tucking out the side there. Can I get that covered up? Yes, I can. We've got pretty much a perfect 20 pence group. Now, this rifle, a lot of the guns that we test on this channel, we do them in the condition you get them out the box. For instance, the barrel can have all sorts of crap in there to show exactly what the gun can do. Well, I'm not going to lie to you, I have cheated ever so slightly with this one. With this one, where I had so much time between filming the first section and the second section, I actually cleaned the barrel on this. And I'm glad that I did, because the cleaning wads that come out the other end were as black as soot. So I got that cleaned. She's still nowhere near run in. Like I said, it's been far too windy out there to get any serious accuracy results. The zeroing what we've got here, or the current zero that we have, was done when the barrel was still all sorts of gunked up. But the barrel has since been cleaned, and these are the results afterwards. So cheating a little bit, but the barrel is definitely not leaded in, so that's also worth considering. But 25 yards with the multi-shot mag, that is pretty good, if I'm honest, especially for a budget PCP. Like I said, we stock these around the £170 mark, so that's pretty damn good. Then we move to the single shot tray, and you can see that's either the wind or a bit of user error coming in there, but we've sort of got a 90-degree group, shall we say. It is better than the multi-shot mag group, however, because it is a 5p group compared to the 20p over on this side here. That will not fit under, this here won't fit under a 5p piece. But yeah, a 5p group at 25 yards, admittedly rested, whereas if we go back to some of our older reviews, up with the Artemis M16s, I think maybe even the M30, I can't quite remember now, we did it unrested, whereas this is using the rest. But again, for a budget PCP, that is pretty damn good. But I think we can do even more with it, and to make up for the sheer amount of time this has taken to film this, let's do a bit more shooting. And what happens if we push the target out to, say, I don't know, let's try 60 yards. This should be fun. So then, as promised, our 65-yard target time. The tape measure has well and truly been out. It has been measured out to 195 feet, which pretty much equates to 165 in yards. Same pellets, exact same zero. You can see the rifles here, we've just given it a fill. And if we look up, I do also apologise for the wind noise, we are completely exposed to the elements right now. Hopefully you can see down there, there is a rather freaky looking target. So I'm going to have a little walk down there now, and I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to be aiming at. So let's take a look. Alright then, so the target. This is our ultra high-tech hillbilly target that we're going to be going for. The golf ball is going to be the target. If I can get the fly, I'll be a very happy bunny. And the card down here is to show roughly where my shots are going to be going, so I can see through the scope just how low it's going until I can adjust from there on. I won't be adjusting zero, it'll be simply me adjusting my own holdover until we can hopefully ping that golf ball off of there. As I said, it is slightly gusty today. You might not be able to see it through the camera there. You might even be able to hear it, to be honest with you. I don't think the environmental sound protection on these GoPros is all that great, so you can probably hear it buffeting like mad, and I am sorry about that. But as you can see, there is a little bit of wind. It's pretty calm at the minute, but it seems to get up to around 20-25 mile an hour gusts. So if you see any shots going way over to the right, that's probably what that's going to be. So enough of this, let's get the rifle out and let's see if we can ping a golf ball off a tee at 65 yards. Here we go, fingers crossed. Okay, so the ball came off, but it was not an impact. Just as a little catch up, you can see the first pellet's gone down here. This is aiming directly at the ball. Second pellet was aiming in the scope about an inch up, well not an inch, about say 3 inches up, and second pellet has impacted here. That was me sort of compensating for the wind. I was aiming about up here, and it's, well, it didn't move, to be fair with you, it's still in line. The third shot, however, why that ball came off, can you see that? We are getting frighteningly close. 170 pounds PCP, folks, PR900. I reckon maybe next 3 shots, if I'm very, very lucky, which I'm not, we might be able to get it. Oh, I'd love to get that fly. All right then, let's try a few more shots, see what we can get. So, we know where we're going now. Let's see if we can make it just to there. Let's reset the camera, carry on. Okay, that was not an impact either. The impressive thing, however, is that we've actually now, I think that's two pellets going through the same hole there, which isn't too bad at 65 yards. But if you look, there's another one here, and we're getting closer and closer each time. The thing that's really messing me around is that bloody wind. I don't know if you can hear it or not. Like I said, if it's really loud through the video, I'm afraid there's nothing I can really do about that just at the minute. But we are getting seriously close, and that's not a bad spread for 65 yards, if I'm being honest with you. But that was not a hit. That was very close, but not quite on. I'm beginning to miss my mil dots now. The Konus use, I do like it. It's a very fine duplex scope, and for close range shooting I'd actually prefer it to a mil dot, but for this sort of shooting I do like my my dots for judging holdover, I'll put it that way. But right then, third time's a charm. Let's head back and see if we can get it this time. Okay, I think we can class that as a definite hit. If we take a look at the T-peg there, you can see there's absolutely no damage, and it didn't simply drop off like when we hit the metalwork here. You can see still got our original one here. I think there was another one around there, but that's since been knocked off by this one. You can see the rest of our misses here. Now let's see if we can find that ball. And yes, we can. That didn't take long. Right, let's take a look. Was it that side, or was it that side? There you go. You can see that just about there, top left hand corner. That is a definite hit on a golf ball at 65 yards. You can't complain about that for the money, you really can't. I know my shooting let us down maybe ever so slightly, and the wind, again, you may be able to hear it blowing now, didn't do us any major favours, but we got there in the end. I'm well chuffed with that, and I've just had some good exercise as well, as I'm sure you can hear. I run down here like an excited child when I saw that bounce off. So then, let's go to the final verdict and see what we think of the PR900. So then, SMK PR900 review. Do you know, it's been so long since I've done one of these reviews, thanks to the weather and other commitments getting in the way, I've almost forgotten how to end these. What do we think of the PR900W? I personally, I like it, even if it doesn't entirely fit me. But let's go over the specs, what you'll see when they're advertised, and let's see how they actually compare in the real world. So first thing we'll look at is it's advertised itself as a full powered air rifle. So let's have a look at our chrono results, and let's see if the gun can back that up. Starting from the first few shots, you can see this is an unregulated gun, so there is definitely a bit of creep going on when it comes to power, or a bit of a surge. And you can see the first two shots come in at 9.7 and 9.9 feet pound, so I definitely wouldn't consider that full power. We also had a bit of a mishap with the sixth shot here. It's coming in at 6.01. That could have been perhaps the gun. It could have been the fact that we was using the SMK Victory pellets, because it's sort of roughly the sort of pellet that will probably be given away with these guns, that sort of tin. And that come through at 6, you can see there. It could be a pellet issue, like I said, it could be the gun. We'll never quite know on that one. But after that, the gun definitely recovered itself, and you can see here it soars up to the very low 11 feet pounds. There you go, it's 11.12, 11.04. You can see it definitely goes up to 11. I would most certainly consider that full power. When you consider that the pellets used, those Victory shocks, they're 15.2 grains, which they're sort of slightly light. They're heavier than something like an FTT or a Superdome, but they're still light when it comes to a sort of pellet for a PCP. When you consider that your JSBs, you're looking at around 16 grain, I believe, and the air arms are about the same. They sit in the middle of light and heavy of what the pellets you'll mainly use. Obviously you can get the proper heavy hitters like the Barracudas, where you're looking 20 grain, same as the Bismags and all that sort of thing. But they're about 15 grain, so you definitely, with the PCP heavier pellet, the higher the power's going to go. But that, I'd say we can definitely give it that. It is a full power rifle. Consistency, you can see here, spreads 154 feet per second, but that is because of that one dodgy shot that we had, which upset the entire apple cart, what you can see here. It's got here the spread, or the average FPS throughout the entire shot string was 559. That translates to around 10.6-ish, slightly less feet-pound for a 15.2 grain pellet. So that's pretty good. I think we can allow that to say that it's a full power gun. It's also straight out the box, so it's probably got a way to loosen itself up. And this was also before we cleaned the barrel. And I've noticed with a few guns, when you clean the barrel off, you can also get an FPS increase through that as well. But power-wise, we can definitely say the advertising is pretty correct. She is a full power gun, make no mistake about that. Next up is accuracy. Being a PCP, you expect it to be pretty good, even if it's a budget entry model such as the PR900. And thankfully, the PR900 does not disappoint. You can see here, this is using the 7-shot multi-shot mag. This is the 2.2 mag, so you get the 7. And that is a 20 pence group all day long. You saw the 20p piece covering that there. This was rested, and as mentioned, this was at 25 yards. We then transferred over to the single shot tray, and you can see, just for reference, you can see there it is perfectly covered up. Let's just move it along a bit so we get that little fluffy bit out of the way. It's perfectly covered up by a 5p piece, so she's capable of sub 5 pence groups at 25 yards. At this point the barrel had been cleaned, but it's not really been run in. It's had a few different bits of lead going through it to see which pellet group the best, so we haven't got to sit through the... I know some people quite enjoy it, but we haven't got to sit through the slog of me testing different pellets and seeing which ones are all over the place, which ones shoot straight and things like that. It turns out that the barrel, or this one in particular, really likes the JSB Exact Jumbo RS pellets, which is a bit odd because they're actually fairly light for a PCP pellet. Most PCPs usually like something a little bit heavier, but these were definitely the ones to go for. Later on we pushed our target out to 65 yards, and you can see here we made a definite impact on this Titleist golf ball here. It took us a total of, I think we had 2 or 3 breaks where we hit the metal frame just underneath the ball and it bounced the ball off. I think we had 3, 6, then we had 4 with the third group, because you might not have heard it, but I did miss, I've got to be honest. So that was 10, and then we had 2 more until we hit, so that was 12 shots to hit this ball at 65 yards, and it is not a calm day today neither. The other thing was I'm still currently used to using a mil-dot style scope, and the Conus Pro, what I thought I'd try with this gun, is a very fine duplex instead. It's more like your classic sort of hunting scope sort of thing, and while I really do like that reticle, and the Conus reticle is beautiful as well, it is really fine, it's not what I'm used to for longer range shooting. I do like my mil-dots, but I'm going to persevere and see if we can get used to it, because I really do like that scope. But again, accuracy wise, we can definitely say it wins there, but it's not all sunshine and roses. However, there's a few things that don't really suit me and are definitely worth mentioning. Number one are the dimensions. Now, it never promised it was a full-size rifle, so you can't really knock this against it. It is really more of a sort of teenage gun or a lightweight stalking rifle or something like that. It is very, very light, and it is also quite short. If you're a perfect specimen of a man, like myself, it might be a little bit too short for you. I feel a little bit toy-like. I'm 6'5", and I've got long arms that are maybe a bit too long for their own good, and I felt a bit like an octopus trying to hold the thing still and keep myself on target. It was not uncomfortable, but it wasn't a perfect fit, we'll put it that way. On top of that, the rifle is advertised as having a baffled shroud, which is sort of true. It does have a silencing effect. There's definitely, if you get a few of the guns that we've been getting some of the Crowls in now, a Crowl without a silencer on there is quite loud. This is definitely quieter than one of them, but it's still not very quiet, and we're going to test that in a minute. I've got one of those decibel reading apps on my phone, and we're going to compare that to the Artemis M16 that I've got, my trusty M16 range rifle that we've got here, and we're going to put the silencer on that, and we're going to compare the pair of them. Now, the silencer on these, they do their job, but they're not the best on the planet. It's not going to trouble something like a Viarc silencer or a Stumpy or anything like that. But I've still got, just to show how kind of loud these still are, we're going to compare this against that, and you're going to see the difference between them. Other than that, things worth noting. The trigger is a proper 2-stage unit, or at least it feels that way to me. You've got that light first stage, and then you feel it bite into the second stage, and it takes a little bit more pressure for that second stage to finally give, and then off the pellet goes. It's quite a nice trigger. It could do with lightening maybe ever so slightly. It is an adjustable unit on these, but unfortunately it does mean the stock has to come off. We really need SMK to drill a little hole in there, so it's just a case of getting an Allen key in there. But yeah, the trigger itself is nicely formed. It's a proper 2-stage. It's a little bit heavy, but you can get used to it. The other thing worth mentioning on this gun is that the actual build quality itself is really impressive for a gun at this price point. The wood is quite nice. It has got checkering. Granted, it's not the deepest checkering on the planet, I can't lie to you about that, but it does look good and you can feel it. It's reasonably pleasant feeling on the fingertips. The safety, while it's not the most intuitive on the planet, is not bad. I definitely prefer it to the safeties you get on the trigger. They're my least favourite, if I'm being honest. That is definitely better than that, and it's an entirely metal unit you can see there, that little button, and it gives a very satisfying clack when you push it in. It's a nicely made feeling thing. The metalwork in general is quite nice. It's reasonably chunky where it needs to be. Air cylinder's pretty good. The barrel's quite nice. The barrel itself is slightly pellet fussy, as we mentioned earlier, so if I was you, I'd definitely try a tin of these first, because they definitely seem to work. With my one, the air arms weren't so hot, and we did try those new QYS Chinese pellets, and they weren't a whole lot of good either. Although I do hear they're exceptional in the 177. But it's very much, how can I put it? If this was a very expensive gun, I'd be tearing into it a lot more than what I am now. But you can't fault it at the price. It's pellet on pellet. It's capable of killing golf balls when you know where to aim, and there's someone competent actually behind the trigger. It's capable of killing golf balls at 65 yards. 51 shots per fill isn't bad, if I'm being honest, for an unregulated gun. There's far more expensive unreg guns out there that achieve far less. The only thing that I can really complain about is, like I said, it is a little bit loud. Again, you can get a slip over silencer on the end there and it'll stop that, it'll be absolutely lovely, but she is a bit loud. Another thing worth mentioning is that the alignment in here between the breech and the probe itself might be ever so slightly off still. I'm afraid. Some pellets, as I've shown you, are going smooth as silk. The JSBs and air arms, the softer pellets were absolutely magnificent to load. Can't even feel them going in. The HNs and the Superdomes, on the other hand, were as stiff as hell to get in there, to the point where you think something's going to break. Again, it's something that could be looked into, but to be fair, is it a deal breaker? I'll leave that to you to decide. Me personally, I don't think it is. There's plenty of pellets that worked in there okay. Even the Victory shocks went in there pretty smoothly. It's a little bit of notch, but not too bad. But it's got to be mentioned. I've got to be honest, it needs mentioning. The other thing is that the bolt, to me, is a little bit small. It needs a bigger bolt on the end of there. Maybe I've just got giant hands, I don't know. It's more, this is what I mean, it's geared towards like youngsters or people in shorter stature, that'll feel a lot more comfortable to them. But it's a small bolt, it's not the end of the world, and there's plenty of aftermarket tuning parts out there as well for these things, so you can pretty much put a brand new larger bolt on there and customise it pretty much to your heart's content. I know the first thing a lot of guys do, other than the silencer, is they put a different barrel band on here just to make the barrel that little bit more secure. But as a package, and this obviously when it's new, you do get iron sights with it as well, which is a lovely feature to have on a PCP. You don't see that very often. As a package, it's really difficult to fault, I've got to be honest. Is it rough around the edges in certain areas? Well, yes, that's to be expected, especially for a gun at this price, but it's such an accessible gun, and there is so much potential in this platform, especially when you look online and see what people can do with these and see what results they're getting. Overall, for me, would I have one? Doesn't really fit me, but for everybody else, definitely shoulder it and try it. The other good thing about these as well, we've since upgraded, we're no longer using the pump. In the time frame it took for us to start filming this, and at the point we're at now, we've got the Artemis K30 compressor. And even with the pump though, when we was pumping this to begin with, it takes about 2 minutes to pump this from about, say, 50 bar all the way up to 200. So it's another bonus there. If you don't want to invest in a bottle, but you do desperately want a PCP, with a pump you won't sweat too much with one of these. So that's my verdict on the PR900W. They're definitely worth a look, and in my opinion they are a hell of a lot of gun for the money. But let me show you what I mean when I mention sound, because this can be a deal breaker for some, especially if you've got, shall we say, sensitive neighbours. So we'll get the Artemis rigged up on the stand here, we'll get it pointed in a safe direction and give it a squeeze, and then we'll do the same with this and we'll have a look at the difference. So let's take a look. Okay then, so we have our little gauge up to the barrel now. Just making sure I'm not actually in front of the barrel. That would be something stupid that I would probably do. Just make sure it's up to the barrel now, and we're just going to give it a quick squeeze and then see what comes up on our little measure here. Oh, let's just press play because it's paused at the minute. There we go, let's let it settle. Give it a quick squeeze. Well, that's spiked. I hope you can see that on the actual graph itself. That's spiked nearly, I'd say about 78 decibels. I don't know if you can see that just on the bottom. Let me pause it. Let's see, can I zoom this in? No, I can't. If you can just about make that out there. It's spiked up to around 78. So now what we're going to do is we're going to hold that on pause and we're going to put our M16 in there, which granted, as we mentioned, does come with a silencer, but it silences a bit, we'll put it that way. But it's not the best one on the planet. It's good for a freebie, I'll say that much. So, we now have our M16 plugged in, and we're now going to give it a quick squeeze on the trigger. Get our little gauge running again, and let's give it a quick squeeze. And let's put it a little bit closer to the silencer so there's no trickery going on. And that was nowhere near as high. Let's just try that again. I think it went about, was it about 58 decibels? Let's just give it another go. Load another one in. This will be a tricky affair. Right, let's go again. I do apologise for how awkward this probably looks trying to capture this on film, but I'm sort of got one hand on the gun, the other hand on the phone. I need another arm. Right, let's let it settle. Yeah, that went up to 73. Like I said, it's not, the silencer on these aren't the best, whereas the other one on the gauge went up to around 78. So it's definitely, there's a baffled effect on the gun. Like I said, it's not the loudest rifle on the planet. If you fit something on there like a, well, you get something like a Kral that we've been testing lately that don't have any sort of shroud on the end, it's just a thread protector, and she is much louder than this. But if you're after a whisper quiet PCP, you're going to want to invest in a silencer. So that pretty much wraps it up for this review. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys. If you ever need anything or have any questions, do feel free to leave a comment down below, and we'll get onto it as soon as we can. Our next review will be back to our budget spring guns. We'll be taking a look at the Milbro Explorer, and then after that, oh no, sorry, I've got that mixed up. Our next review will be a Kral. It'll be the Kral Puncher Pro 500, which is, I believe, just come to the UK, which would be a very interesting thing to take a look at. My compressor is going to have its work cut out for it, let's put it that way, because that sucker's got a huge buddy bottle on the front. But yeah, if you ever had any questions or need anything, get in touch with us either down below or get in touch with us at our website, bigdansairguns.co.uk. We also now offer RFD transfer services for any rifles that you like, and if there's anything that takes your fancy, get in touch with us and we'll see what we can do for you. All our rifles are also fully chronographed and tested when they come in. The Zabroya rifles in particular, we're soon going to be offering them with humour regulators from new, and the 2-year warranty will still be included with the gun. But that'll be something we're working on now, and we'll get them relisted on the site when they've got the humour regs as soon as they're ready to go. So thanks ever so much for watching, guys. We'll get the Kral all sorted and done for the next review, and yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks ever so much for watching and sticking with us for all this time. It's been taking the mick a little bit, really, hasn't it? Anyways, take care everyone, and we'll see you next time.